So we have a pretty exciting topic for today, and rather than listening to me, we're going to hear it from the experts that are getting the job done. And I'm going to ask a series of questions. And I think for today's format, what I'm going to do, and I see Heather, you're on my screen. Would you like me to ask you all the questions and go to the next person, or go around with the first question and come to the second?
I kind of took some notes, like how a few things I wanted to cover. Is that okay, or is that going way off?
No, that's fine. I just want to know, would you like me to kind of go through like the 4 or 5 questions I shared with you and then go to the next person, or just do one question and go to everybody? I think it'll probably be more efficient to ask everything to you and then go to the next.
Yeah, because that way I could go through all the notes that I took too that are just a little bit, that I think will help them, that I think are going to help.
Fantastic. Well, let's start out with Heather Corrigan. You've been in the business for a short period.
The Hurricane Corrigan, get it right, Rob.
Heather, the Hurricane Corrigan, been in the business for a relatively short period of time and has seen nothing but exponential growth. Can you just tell us how long you've been in the business and what your achievement was last year?
Sure. I'm actually now in year 6, so I completed a full 5 years. Ever since year 1 was bronze, year 2 was silver, and consecutively gold, gold, gold. Let's hope that year 6 is platinum, and I've been consecutive. I've built a brand, Heather the Hurricane, not only to, thank God, clients and everything else, but also within the industry. Everyone knows me too, so I feel like I've just accomplished a lot in a short amount of time, but a lot of work, a lot of dedication that I put into it.
And was it our last time knocking, or the time like 2 times ago that you got a listing from the effort?
It was the last time, and we need to go again, because what did they say? Strike when the iron's hot. Okay, gotta keep going.
So just let's start with the end and share the positive story. Then I'm going to ask you the questions.
Sure. I also, Rob, by the way, have some materials too that I had printed I wanted to share.
Fantastic. You want to share that in the beginning or the end?
Well, this one that I'm holding right here, actually, this and is a door hanger that on the other side is sponsored by a lender partner. So that I didn't have to pay for.
Hold it back a little bit so that they can see it. Okay, fantastic.
Well, the house on top is a house that I actually got from a for sale by owner knocking on the door in Dumont. And then if you remember, we went around there too. So that's the picture of it. It's beautiful. And then my information and also I think it's very important, all my social media handles. I think that's very important. I always tell everyone, follow me, follow me, follow me. That way they could see what I'm doing, what I'm up to. My logo is also there.
And you had your lender do some of the support. I don't want to, like, technically we're supposed to pay a proportionate share. Yeah.
Yes. But and it's also folders. It's just a program, actually. If you want to talk to me afterwards, a woman that organized all this, and all 4 things are sponsored, everything's sponsored by other people. Anyway, if anyone wants to talk to me, I have a contact. The door, yes.
So I didn't realize, I do a lot of these door knocking, but I didn't realize that we're door knocking around an area that you got from door knocking to get the second listing. That's pretty cool.
The one we went to.
You're a high energy overachiever.
So the one that we got was actually, I've been in Bogota before, but that's why you said to me, pick a zip code. And we did that morning. It was 9 in the morning. It was a bunch of us. And that guy did not exactly seem like he wanted to be bothered, the one that we got, John. But once we started talking to him, he seemed to, we made light of the fact that we're bothering him at Sunday, 9 in the morning. And in the end of the conversation, he actually was like, by the way, I have a house that was just left to me by an aunt that passed away. Who would have known that if we didn't stop at his door that morning? I got his information and I called him later that day. That same exact day I spoke to him on the phone. He was very impressed. And then from then, kept going on. We went to meet him. I knew that he'd be at Capitol Grill on his birthday, and I came there with the listing papers, bought him a drink for his birthday. He signed right there, and we're closing this week. Needless to say, I'm going to get him a Capitol Grill gift card for a closing gift. He likes it. So listen to what your clients like too. That's very important.
So fantastic. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions just so we can get through, and then at the end, if there are questions, sure. And if you're from an area that's not local to the Bergen County, you cover all of Bergen, Essex, Passaic. So if you ever have any referrals, think of our team.
Hudson, Morris. Yep.
they're donating their time to share their success with you. So if you have any referrals out of your area, keep that in mind for all of our panelists. So the first
Yes.
question is, what type of door knocking have you done? We talked about, this one was you just picked a zip code and area that you wanted, right? So
Yes, that I know I've done some business in.
So I call that ninja knocking. Okay, that's probably the most difficult area because you don't have a listing and you're not around something that's active. There's in Rob's hierarchy, open house door knocking in advance of that is the easiest door knocking and the highest result you can get. The second one is I see Reyna in my top right. Reyna has a very active farm. And when you go in that farm, she's almost like the mayor of that community. So farm door knocking is very effective. Just sold, if you had just a property that you sold is, hey, I want to let you know about this property I sold, or sometimes even borrowing a sale where you don't say that you sold it, that this one just sold in the neighborhood. A FSBO expired is number 4. And then, what Heather did was pick a zip code and go and knock. That's hurricane tactic. And that's a lot of the door knocking we do when I go out with the group. We just pick an area and we knock. So you did, this one was what I call like ninja because you didn't have an open house or you didn't have your own sale there, but we've knocked around many of your sales before, which is very effective. And we've also knocked in an area where you're marketing. So you've done most of these different techniques. What's your favorite?
I feel that they all have a different feel. I like them all. For example, I had my Carlstad 2-family that's last weekend, and I door knocked right before and let them know about it. And I like that too, because it feels like almost like you have a stake in the neighborhood. So it, maybe something that's not as, the ninja is very, like you said, wild. Maybe if you have a listing or one we have, it maybe gives you a little bit more confidence to go and say, look, I'm here and I could do the same for you. That's also a great thing to do with a sold. Then you could really be like, look what I just did. So I do that and it works well. I have an open house one also that during the open house, I had an ice cream truck to one of mine, and that brought out the neighbors. So there's different ways also to get the neighbors. Then I knocked and they're like, oh, you were the girl that just did that. I've also done the postcard where I had postcards and then knocked on the doors, and then they knew that was me also. Wonderful. Rob, I also door knock on estate sales, and that's gotten me actual listings, door knocking at estate sales, actual listings on the spot, and afterwards referrals.
That's an excellent tip, because a lot of times when they're cleaning out the, well, even if it's a like a yard sale, a lot of times a yard sale is really an estate sale in disguise.
Yard sales I do as well. Haven't gotten leads from, but the estate sales I have gotten 3 or 4 leads from where they called the owner right there.
How do you find the estate sales?
There's different sites that I could share with people, because now what it is I became friends with the estate, like there's different people that they run them. So now they know me. This one lady actually referred me to one of her clients. And when I was talking to her, she gave me the name. I knew the woman, and I went and on Facebook at the same time I was being referred. I hit her up on Facebook. She called me later that day and she was very happy with my services.
That's
and also, I also, yeah. So that's another great tip, way to get.
Now, how do you pick the areas to knock? I know we talked about the different types of knocking. How do you pick the area?
Like you said, it's really what you had said. Oh, another way to pick, you know what I did recently? I picked an area of townhomes. I thought that might be a good strategy. You're going to get people that maybe they're like, let's sell because they're outgrown. Maybe they're older folks that even want to just sell and relocate. So I thought a townhouse column area would be a good place to door knock. I got some really great leads, and I'm actually going to follow up with them this week, because it was a few months ago and they said follow up with them in the spring, March, and here we are. So that's another great tip.
Now, what about door knocking with a partner? Like when you go
Love it. Love it.
You prefer to go with a partner or go solo?
I prefer whatever. I'll do it. Look, any of this isn't the most comfortable, but you do it and it works, and it feels really good when it works. Doing it on your own, is a little bit more challenging. When you have a partner, it kind of, you play off of each other. That's what I did with the East Rutherford one, was We ended up being together with other folks and we shared that one. But I do both. I went this weekend with Kim from our office. She's Hispanic speaking. I'm not. So we went in an area that she was able to communicate a little bit more. And I was like, tell them this, tell them. So able to train her. And also we all learned together. Maybe there's some new clients we'll get out of it, a new area we just reached. Fantastic. I also find I love two families, but you're right, Rob. It's very difficult to door knock on a two family because you're not getting the owner. So the best thing for that, I think, would be more co-realty for those.
Have you ever converted a buyer from like knocking on a renter, door knocking, or not?
That one time. So
well, yeah, well, like if when you door knock, like a percentage of homes are owned by like are renters. I know right. some of your peers have actually talked to renters and gotten them to buy a house. I was wondering if you.
Oh yeah, I do that all the time.
So you find renters and get them to buy. Okay.
And I've also gotten the owner of the home that now I figured out who they are and they'll use me now for their rental needs or selling needs. So that's another thing you can do.
And I know you might not know this number exactly, but how many pieces of business do you think have been created from your outreach via door knocking?
I mean, don't forget, one leads to another, leads to another.
Just a ballpark.
At least maybe 15 transactions.
Wow, that's pretty cool. And that was probably most recently in the last 3 years, right? Not the first.
Yeah, I've gotten better at, yes. Even though we've been door knocking for years, I feel like I've mastered, I'm getting more results from it.
And then what's the most important thing for the success in door knocking? Is it consistency, mindset, attitude, a smile when people, you knock on the door and they look out the window, they decide if they're going to open or not? What's the most important thing to being successful?
Really, all of it. But also when you do have someone that you actually spend that time, that it's work, you get something out of it, ask the right questions, engage with them. At my open house this weekend, I spoke to this one lady. She was just passing by. I got to talk to her and found out that they want a list. And now I have the listing. I signed it 2 days after my open house. I'm getting the pictures this week. It's all about talking to people. Someone that may have just seen someone pass by, didn't have a conversation that I did, and I got the information I needed to get the listing.
All right. So Heather, I'm going to, we have 4 other panelists. So I'm going to try to just go through it. I got a comment from Jay Latanzia, which said, don't wear a tie. Can you tell me about like what type of attire do you wear when you knock? I'm
always I'm a very fashion forward person. I'm always dressed a certain way. That's just my style. But I mean, I'm not a guy, so I don't know about the tie situation, but I'm always just dressed very stylish. I even wear the wrong shoes, as you know. I'm trying to be better with that. But I think just, I think it really depends on the person's style. I think
it's kind of your brand is kind of like not really, doesn't adapt to casual.
It isn't casual, but
real quickly, like what is the basic script that you use when you knock on the door? Sometimes people aren't very engaging. How do you build that rapport and conversation?
I mean, that's an interesting question. Really, I think it's really case by case, just like any client. When I see the person, I try to identify them when I see them. Like when we were together one time and there was like leopard in the front, I'm like, oh my God, your dog has leopard. Like, something you can maybe identify with them. And then once they're talking to you, let them know we're here. Are you looking to buy or sell? Do you know anyone that is? Do you have friends? Just start talking to them. Really, half the time I once was at a door that day when we got that listing. Joel was with us. This guy had me talking for an hour. He just wanted to talk, but he'll remember me. He'll remember the hurricane when he's ready to sell. That's for sure. Let them maybe say a few things to them that are going to drag it out of them. Sometimes they're lonely in their home and they're happy to talk to someone, and they'll remember that. And then they'll tell others.
And we talked about the successes that you had. What's the biggest challenge from a door knocking perspective that you've personally had? Like you said, getting the door slammed in our face.
That kind of thing. And one more thing I want to say about success is, if you remember, Rob, remember we knocked on the door, like, oh my God, it's Heather the Hurricane. Like they recognized me from my other efforts. So that felt really good to be recognized when you went door knocking. But anyway, challenges, of course, is, having the door slammed in our face. Like, what are you doing here? That kind of thing. And really, if you just keep light of it, just like the one that we got that listing, he's like, is this how you get your business soliciting at Sunday morning? And we're like, yeah, why not? He was like, yeah, you're right. So sometimes when a negative that they say to you could spin it around with a positive.
Yeah. So, Sunday morning, 9 is probably the earliest you want to go. You might want to even, throttle that back to 10, depending on, your area. But, sometimes we get resistance because we're early, but it's all about having that conversation and leading with value. So Heather,
Exactly.
I want to congratulate you on your success and thank you for
Thanks.
sharing with the group. So Heather, the Hurricane from our Closter office covering most of Northeast Jersey, if you have any referrals. Next, thanks, Heather.
By the way, Rob, tell them about the referral I did for you.
You talking to Robert Garver or me?
Garver, I'm just saying, he could tell you that he referred me and his clients were very happy. That's all I'm saying. So send. I'm happy to pay a referral fee and treat your clients very, very well.
And Heather has excellent follow-up skills as well. That's part of the success formula, as you can see. So I see Reyna is patiently waiting there. Reyna, good morning. How are you?
Rob, just one thing before you go into Reyna, because it pertains to something that Heather said.
Yes.
And I think that it will help agents to, if they get stuck in a conversation, when you asked her about, what kind of script does she use, her first response was, that's an interesting question. Okay, so that gave her a couple of seconds to think about how she wanted to respond to that, rather than going, And I think that's really important for people to understand, to say things like that. That's a great question,
Yeah.
So I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you. I do want to say one other thing, Rob. I know you have to go. You remember how I said about the estate sales? Now they refer me to people. I have thank you cards also printed up with all my material that have a gift card that I was sent as a gift card, thanking them for referring me. So you know that she's going to keep referring me and that her clients were so happy. So, it all has to bring one call leads to 30 transactions. I always say that's how it is throughout my whole business.
Fantastic. Before we go to you, Reyna, hey, Eric Funk, can you just say something so that your picture comes on screen here with your background picture? I see Eric with his,
hello.
See, that's a picture taken by yours truly when we were out door knocking in front of a peacock was that Parsippany or Morris Plains, Eric?
That was the Parsippany section of Morris Plains. Let's put it that way.
Fantastic. Now,
yes.
Now, did you say that you re-engaged with that person with the peacock after our door knocking?
Yes, they're on my list, and they're on my list of follow-ups that I do like every 2 to 4 weeks. And the first thing they say is, "Oh, I remember you." And it was like, "I know, we love your peacock. I look at it every day." I'm like, but she's actually looking to buy and won't sell until she finds something else. So that's pretty good. I'm getting a good relationship with her. Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I'm humbled to have been the photographer of your picture there. So now we're going to go on. Thanks, Eric. We're going to go on to Miss Reyna. So Reyna, let's start with how many transactions can you connect to door knocking?
Well, I was thinking about it last night, and currently I have 5 listings from one client that I met door knocking. And then we've also sold 2 in the past from this one client. So that'll be 7 plus the 5 that he bought with me. So that's 12 just from one client right there.
Now hold on. Can you share now, when you met that client, was it like, wow, I need a realtor, or did you have to build a relationship? Share that story.
Okay, so it was a great story, actually. I think it was like my 2nd or 3rd time door knocking. I was leveraging a sale that Emily had in Summit. going around with a mortgage broker, and he had refi flyers, and I had, you know, a market report about the neighborhood featuring our last sale and some other sales in the neighborhood. And we had, you know, done a few streets already, and Rob's done this neighborhood with me a few times already. But that was one of my first times, and we saw this guy who was across the street with a realtor. So he was with another realtor, and I told my mortgage guy, I was like, hey, why don't you just go give him a flyer, see if he needs any financing. And so he was like, what's this? Looked at it, left his realtor, came over to talk to us, and was really impressed at what we were doing. And, you know, he was like, all right, well, let me get your number, let me get your info, let's keep in touch. You know, I followed up with him, and then I kept calling him. He said, oh, well, by the way, I actually have a house for sale down the street, the same street. He had just developed it, knocked it down and built a new house. And he had a realtor for that. And I said, well, let me look at it. Let me see it. I said, oh, wow. Like, I went to go look at it. It looked great. I saw his listing was up. It didn't get any hits on it. I was like, you're not doing yourself any justice with this picture you have out on the front. It was like just the picture of the front. They had no landscaping, no curb appeal, anything. I was like, you need to put, like, you know, a more eye-catching picture up front. So I just kept on giving him free advice. And then we started talking, and I kept on saying, hey, do you want to go see this house? Hey, you want to go see this house? We finally went to go look at a house. It was in Union. It was about like 350. We put an offer and it didn't get it. Then kept calling him, kept talking to him. Next, we put an offer on a house in Chatham for 600. Got that one. He flipped it. We sold it 3 months later for 990. Then
Now, it's important to know you helped him with some of the design choices, right? Because you were more than just a negotiating agent. And that one in Chatham was the one that I actually was on a fairly busy street that I met you at, correct?
yes,
so
that was a main street on North Passaic. It gets a lot of traffic. It was, you know, a little bit of a harder sell. It has a U driveway, but he did a great job. Rob said, I helped him with a lot of the finishes, picking out choices, and trendy but modern kitchen that would grab clients' attention.
Now, because he was an investor, did you take that listing at 2%? I know the answer to this, but was it 2 or no?
Well, every time he buys, I get, you know, the 2.5, but yes, for that, but we are working in the future to get the 5% because he can see the value that I provide for him now. So, you know, we're doing a lot of work for him.
That was almost $1 million sale, right?
Yeah.
And you did do a little bit of work, so it was probably still worth it, right?
Yeah, it was definitely still worth it. It was, you know, I'll be celebrating my coming up to my second year in March. So that was my first almost $1 million sale. I was really happy. Now I have 5 listings on the market that are all over $1 million, starting at 1.15, going up to 1.6 with him. So
and the 0 point of that relationship all was from a door knocking connection, correct?
Yep.
And how many millions of dollars do you think are in those 15 or 17 sales?
I did a calculation the other day because I felt like you're going to ask that question. So let me see if I could pull it up. I was anticipating this. So just in those 5 sales altogether would be 9,265,000. If you're including the sales that I helped him purchase to get those homes, then it would be 12,068,000.
And do you have any other transactions from door knocking other than the one builder, or is that it?
Yeah, so I just went on a listing appointment last week. Actually, it's funny because the builder lives in that neighborhood, and his next door neighbor called me. His son called me and said, hey, my father really wants me to call you to list his house. I said, okay, great. Let me, you know, where you guys live? He's like, oh, 31. I was like, oh, you live right next to my client. He was like, oh yeah. I was like, did Ricky give you my number? He was like, no, you know, they just got my postcards. They've seen me door knocking. I met them at a yard sale, and I've been there in their neighborhood, kept showing up. So I went to the listing appointment. We're still talking. And after I went to the listing appointment, I door knocked the neighborhood, and I gave them a calendar of everything that's happening in the community. And I'm actually teaching a like a story time yoga class in the Summit Library once a week. So it was a great opportunity to tell everybody about what I'm doing. And they all know that I have the listing right on that street already. One of the new construction is up there for 1.15. So it's not even built yet. And we sold another house on that street in September for $1,050,000. So a lot of people know me. When I had the open house in September, I had so many neighbors come out in the neighborhood. The house was full of people. It was wonderful.
How many, no pun intended, how many doors are in your farm area?
Okay, well,
2 farms,
I have
right?
3 farms.
3 farms?
Yeah, so there's about 3, I would say we have 300 in the Summit farm, and then about 200 in the other one. So about a little more than 550 in altogether. So I usually break it up. So I'll do, 2-3 streets at a time. It usually takes me 2 or 3 days to knock the whole farm area when I'm doing Summit. And then the other streets, I could do them in 1 or 2 days.
And it's pretty interesting. Like when I've gone with you, a lot of these people you've talked to 2 or 3 times by the time we meet with them, and they are starting to recognize you and your brand.
Mm-hmm.
And, you a couple of times when the ban on plastic bags went out, you were out there giving out the reusable shopping bags branded, and you usually give out a little market report as well, right? For your little farm.
Yep. So we've done that. I do Memorial Day, put the flags tie my business cards to it. So everybody gets a flag, and it's great because they are all like, oh, you're the flag girl. They'll remember me. And it's funny because some of the houses will still have the flags from last year on them when I drive by. And they all love it. They think it's so nice. It's so patriotic. So that's something that I've done. I also did trick or treat this year, and I gave out a little recipe card and some candy to all the families that I've worked with. So just little freebies and things of value. People love that.
And so your door knocking is limited to your farm area, right? Because you have plenty to do there, right?
Yeah,
which is Reyna's another example of really going, deep instead of wide to different areas. How many people have been really mean to you, like made you feel uncomfortable not door knocking?
Never, nobody. I mean, I've had maybe one person that was like, we don't want anything, like leave us alone, but nobody's made me feel uncomfortable. I kind of just brush it off. I'm like, okay, see you later. See you next time. And if they don't like me this time, maybe they'll like me next time.
And you're going in a neighborhood where the prices are like 600 to 2 million, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like you're going in an area where some might be intimidated. So your door knocking is primarily now your farm area. That's how you pick the areas to knock. What do you think is the most important thing to success in door knocking?
Persistence, definitely. Just keep on trucking, people really like the hustle. I actually have developed a really great relationship with another neighbor, and he's like, that's my girl. Every time he sees me, I put up my listing sign. He's like, hey, Reyna, that's my girl. I see what you're doing. So the other day when I was over there, I called him. I'm like, hey, Rudolph, I'm in your neighborhood. He's like, come over. So I went over. I, had a 20-minute talk with him and his wife. He's like, when I'm selling my house, you're going to be the one that sells it. You don't have to do anything. He likes how I work. He likes my hustle and everything. So
how is it that you and Heather seem to enjoy it when everybody else, oh God, we're knocking?
I like a challenge. I just think I like talking to people. I was a bartender, I was a teacher, and I like having that face-to-face interaction. I think I do a lot better face-to-face than on the phone. Because when you smile at somebody, you make eye contact with somebody, it doesn't matter what your words say. And that's something that I learned from teaching when I was teaching preschool and kindergarten. And another instance, I was teaching overseas in Israel. These were students that I didn't even speak the same language. Some of them just came here from other countries, and you don't really need words to communicate with children. It's all about your energy and your body language, and people pick up on that. So I think that's important.
Energy.
Yeah,
People always say about me, Rob, my energy.
It's all about
So,
energy. You cultivate the right energy and people will come to you. So I love
Yeah.
that.
so what's the script that you use?
I just usually, I don't really like to use a script door knocking. I just want to be like, hey, I'm Reyna, I'm your local realtor. I just wanted to introduce myself. If you need anything, I'm here. And then sometimes, you know, it depending on how that goes, do you know anybody that needs any help buying or selling? And Rob's really helped me get a little bit more direct with saying those things and like getting, you know, people engaged in that kind of conversation. But sometimes I just want to establish the relationship with people and let them know who I am without coming off salesy.
Fantastic. And let's see we already talked about your successes, 15 million. And your first time door knocking, was that like 2 years ago?
Yep, it was around like probably May 2 years ago, and Emily came with me, and you know, she just showed me the ropes, and then I continued to go and kind of imitate what she taught me, and it's been really helpful. And you know, like I said, I don't get nervous at all. I really like it. I'm going to be going probably this weekend for another open house that I have in another area. So
I want to say,
I'm sorry, Rob. Do you door knock alone, or do you have a partner, or
I've brought partners before. Like I said, I've had lenders come with me, and I've gone with Rob. I've gone with, you know, some other people, but a lot of times I do go alone. I feel comfortable going alone. I usually, at the beginning, I was like Heather, wearing my heels and everything, and you know, people love that too, because they're like, I love your style. But I kind of learned, if it's the summer, I'll wear my big chunky platforms because they're really comfy. But other than that,
Old sparkle sneakers I started wearing. Rob saw them, he loved them.
yeah.
yes.
So I usually tend to wear my Remax like shirt or sweatshirt or something cute, and then sneakers, so I'm comfy, so I can hit as many doors as possible.
smart?
Well,
Thank you.
well, thank you for sharing. So Galina and Shontay, are you both available till the end?
Yes.
Yes, both. Galina, I want to just, for purposes, it's not only pretty women that can be successful door knocking. Eric and I have had some great success. And then I see, you know, David Hayes is on. He's not a guest here. I just wanted to see if I could tap him for just a sentence or two here, if he's able to talk. David, are you able to unmute yourself, or are you occupied? All right, looks like we're not going to hear from David, so we'll go on to Galina. And Galina, good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. So, and Galina, we have the distinction of our last time door knocking, you got a listing which closed, right?
Nice.
And I have to tell you, it was the last door. We had like two doors on the last street. And I said, that's it. I'm done, Rob. I don't want to do it. He says, this is the last door. And I promise I'll leave you alone. And that was the door we got a listing.
There's some funny message to that, right? Like, don't cut it short. We
Two
did-
doors left. And I was like, I'm over it. I don't want to do this.
And overall, like, we had a pretty good day with people engaging and sharing information up to that point, right?
Yeah, and I do call them now, and then I do say, like, we have no houses in Harrington Park. What are you thinking? Do you have any questions? I do. Yeah.
Now, was
I
that
do tell them.
was that Harrington Park we were in?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can see that smile from Galina for not passing up those last couple of doors. So, Galina, what type of door knocking do you like to do? Like, you go around a particular farm area? Do you just pick a sold house and door knock around that? What's your method when when you say, hey, I want a door knock, you give me an address? How do you pick it?
Well, mainly around the farm area where I work and where I live. So I'm already been around the same areas, and, you know, people already know me from the community. So I want to stick to the same area. I do have one farm area where I do mailers and I door knock just that area. So they constantly see me. I'm new. I mean, I just started door knocking that area around a year and a half ago. So it's not like I've done that for a long time, but, you know, when people see you in stores, they already know who you are, kind of say hi.
And
But
how
I
many
feel like,
how many really nasty people have you encountered?
you know, you got to think about it. At first I was thinking, oh my God, you know, how they could do that to me. But then I realized that I'm nastier than anybody when people knock on my door. I am usually have a dog on me, my kids, and you got to put yourself in their shoes. And you're like, it's like, you know, like when one getting beat up and then there's a pile of people on top of them all wanted to beat them up. I mean, how are you that
Right, but,
one?
but what you're saying is like, are you saying that sometimes people beat you up, or you're saying that your perception?
Everybody's like have a surprise on their face. Why are you knocking? And it's up to you to clarify, like Reyna said, with a smile. And you know, you just, people mirror you. It doesn't matter if they're happy, they see your miserable face, they're gonna take that smile off and put it on the same one as you. They will mirror your face. So if you want to have a happy face looking at you, take that fear off and smile.
Right.
That's it.
And how many listings have you gotten from door knocking, and do you have some that you're actively working?
How many listings did I get from door knocking? So I knocked on one builder, the same thing, that it's, I've gotten from him 1, 2, 3. I've sold him 4 more, and this is within the last year. So I got 7 from him alone. He's a bit weird. His friends call me and they said like he will block me for the time when he doesn't want to work with me, but his friends will call me and they said he does not want to work with anybody but you. So, and then he would reach out, but then I have the one I listed with you. I have one in Norwood right now. Cleaning it out to list it. That was also a door knock. So I don't know. There's been few from just door knocking. And then I got a rental. I knocked and the guy was like, oh, good. Can you just fill up my next door? I'm looking for a tenant. So it's just sometimes you follow up, but.
So we had a couple of questions. One was, how often do you follow up with somebody that may say that they might be interested?
Well, it depends. It depends. Usually I send him a thank you card if he has all my information, because on the spot, you give him as much as you can. Then you send them an email if they give you. Also just to, and then you just put them on the mail drip campaign to remember about you. But then if they told you 3 months, then you just call them in a month and say, hey, just wanted to catch up.
And roughly how many transactions have you participated from, like the chain of people you met or got door knocking, just for the audience?
Just door knocking, just not cold calls, just door knocking.
Yeah, from either that, and if anyone from your door knocking has referred you to somebody else or done another deal like Reyna.
They a lot of times, if they don't do business with you but they like you, they refer you to all of their friends. Just from door knocking, I got one who referred me to her friend. That didn't work out because she wanted, not every listing works out. She didn't work out, but I got one just from door knocking. 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8.
Okay, so for those of you who say,
and then so all within the 1.5 to 2 years. It wasn't like in a long time.
so we have a resource, Knockwise, that somebody recommended on the chat. Yes, not to Ring camera. Say hi. So just say hi to a Ring camera.
But I actually had the Ring camera and Ultipants. I had the cops follow me, and the woman would follow me until the cops showed up. I mean, I was with the partner at that time knocking, but the cop showed up and he says, like, you know, the Ring people called, you know, and we give him the card. He says, I understand. And then he said his son was looking for a house. We gave him a card as well. So you know, not always you get called, you know, people are people.
So it's not always a straight way to the top, you know. In some areas you need to get permits. Even
You were ceramics they got you, right, Rob?
Even with permits, people still, you know,
I'm going to just go through some of the quick questions that were put on here. How do you go about door knocking in a city situation with a tenant building? Maybe that's not the best area, just like where there are two families, you can pick where you want to grow your farm. Once you speak to somebody, it's pretty much the same follow-up as any other connection that you get. How big is your farm area? We talked about Reyna's was, 550, 600. Glenn mentioned a knock-wise. I personally don't like Ring cameras. I prefer to actually knock on the door instead of use the doorbell, even though the Ring camera does pick up your activity. And then Reyna says she door knocks 5 to 6 times a year in her farm. Anything else that you want to share with us, Galina, before we go to the next person? And if there are any questions or things you want to chime in.
I mean, I guess when you door knock, and that was what you taught me, don't stay more than like 3 to 5 seconds, because you could stand by the door for a long time so you just want to knock as many as you possible, get the information, and then give them a call back later. They're not going to give too much info on the spot.
Well, thanks for sharing that, because that's a really important thing, because you can cover a lot more doors if you knock, wait like 5 seconds, then walk, because I'd rather have the door open and then walk back in the case where somebody does open as opposed to wait there for 30 seconds for no activity.
Yeah. I have a tip also.
Go ahead, Reyna.
Sure. So if I meet somebody, even if they're not interested right now, a great tip Emily shared with me was like, hey, can I get your number just in case, you ever need to call me? I get a lot of calls. I don't want to miss your call. So always take their number instead of them taking yours. So then you can always follow up with them, and, you don't have to wait around for them to call you, but you just make it very, not salesy, and just say, hey, I get so many calls on my phone. I want to make sure I don't miss you. Let me take
So Reyna, Reyna's out of our Morristown office on the Frisch team. What's your service area in case anybody has a referral?
Summit, Chatham, Madison, Morristown, Basking Ridge, mostly those areas.
Morris, Union, and Somerset counties. And then Galina, thanks a lot, Reyna. And one thing that I think Reyna, one part of that is a lot of times people will be like, give me your card, or that has your number. And then you go and say, can I have your number? Because I get a lot of spam calls. I want to make sure I recognize and answer your call, which is quite an ironic part to that, because you're getting their number because you don't want to, you're sharing your spam phobia, and you want to make sure that you answer it. So that does work most of the time, right?
Yeah. You also get an email, put them on the drip campaign. If it's going to send them like once a year, just don't bombard them, but just remember, just find the way to get everything you could get from them. That's all.
And Galina, Galina is also out of our Closter office. What's your service area if anyone has a referral?
I do mainly Bergen County and some Passaic and Essex. That's it.
Fantastic. Now I saw David was on, I don't know if you're still available for, I want to get maybe 1 minute of your time, David.
Sure. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. So just so you know that door knocking can work for, middle-aged men, right? Because we went door knocking, and can you just, share what our experience was? I don't even know if you've ever gotten any business from it, but I just want you to share the experience and the expectation.
So to answer the last part first, I was out on Saturday showing homes to somebody I door knocked in Greenbrook when we went, and you had to go on to the next one. I think you were going to Morristown or somewhere. I finished the street and I knocked on one of those doors. A lady came out. She said, oh, come on in. I was dragged into the house, and I've been showing her and her husband homes since then.
And have you, I'm going to put you on the spot. Have you door knocked like since then, or not really?
No, but I'm
calling you out now, David.
I know.
You will now.
Out of love and contribution, I'm calling you out. So you don't need to be a fashionable woman to door knock. It works for everybody.
Well, it's worked for me. I've also, there were 3 people that I'm still in contact with who are still looking from that Greenbrook door knocking.
And that was,
That's
that was,
his
We've been mailing.
What's his accent,
a couple of
Rob?
areas, so we're,
it is not his accent, Heather.
I put this on, I'm really from
Oh,
Staten.
it is an accent, which
It's
definitely.
his Long Island accent.
Look, let me just clear, I don't have an accent.
No, you
I know
don't.
it's not.
I speak English. Everybody else has an accent, if you don't mind me.
You simply we all do.
No,
All
it
right,
was,
so-
it was
so-
a pleasant experience. It was productive. There was only one person who yelled out of an upstairs window that she was going to report us to the HOA. And Rob just smiled and she went away. But there was absolutely nothing to be overawed about. It was a pleasant experience. It was a sunny day. And
we were the first in the morning, so we started pretty early. I think we might have woke up that lady who yelled out the window, but you know, sometimes you just got to do what you have to do to get the message out there. But thank you for sharing. I just want everybody to know that a man can actually be successful door knocking as well. Our Florida speaker Pavla had a family emergency, so she's not able to join us today. So I'm going to move on to.
Can I just say one more thing?
Absolutely.
Sorry. Another thing that I've done, people that I really engaged with, I have bags with my face on it too, but I had these little s'mores kit. Thank you so much for it, like cute little things, only if I felt like I really connected with them. So I do a lot of those, you know, Heather the Hurricane merch, a lot of merch I have too, like Emily said.
And so somebody asked, do you leave a door tag? I think it definitely doesn't hurt. If you're going to commit to it, they're not that expensive to do. Put them out there,
Or have someone pay for them.
I mean, you know, have some of your partners, you know, help us out. That's, you know, good sound business.
I also, instead of door tags, I have the clear bags with the little circles on them that you could put on the doorknob, and then you can put whatever, you know, you
Yeah,
want.
that's cute. I
So
love that.
That's what I did for trick or treat. I made a cute, healthy kid snack for trick or treat, and then I put in a little candy. When I do my calendar for the neighborhood, I'll put it in there, or my market report, I'll put it in there with my business card too.
I love it.
Yeah, and they're really cheap. You could get like, you know, 200 on Amazon, so not that expensive.
Hey,
No.
Rob, there's a question that popped up a couple of times. Can somebody just explain what Knockwise is?
I'm not familiar. Glenn would have to explain if he's still on.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. So Knockwise is an app on your phone. And when you're like, I would use it to hold myself accountable to X number of doors. So I put in 200 doors. And when you put in 200 doors, it canvasses a neighborhood. When you walk door to door, it tracks you on GPS. And when you walk up to the house, it tells you the owner's name by the tax record. So when you walk up to the door, you go, hey, John, how you doing, buddy? He goes, how do you know who I am? I'd go, well, I'm your neighborhood realtor. I know who everyone is. And that would just start the conversation.
Wonderful.
People thought it was creepy. More people thought it was cool. So,
But thank you
I
for
like
sharing.
that. That's
Thank you
really
for-
cool.
And Glenn, what's the cost of that?
I think it's like $20 a month, $29 a month. It's peanuts.
And
But
it's
use
peanuts,
it, right?
It's peanuts if you use it. If it's something
Use
that
it.
you just pay for on the auto charge, it's a waste of money.
Yeah.
So, hey, thank you. I mean, this is awesome. Everybody sharing ideas.
cool.
I want to thank everybody. Glenn's out of our, he has the Morris agent team in Rockaway, covering mostly Morris County. David Hayes covers Hunterdon, Somerset, Morris. I think I got that right for you, Dave. And now I have Shontay from the Sandy Chambers team. Shontay,
Yes,
how are you?
I'm fine. Thank you.
So, what type of door knocking have you done? Like, do you do open house, farm, just sold, FSBO expired, you know, ninja areas where you want to just build your brand?
So I've done initially, so when I first started door knocking, it was in the fall of 2021. It was actually with you. And I started off taking your script, which was simply, do you know anybody that I can help that's looking to make a move in the near future? And I think it was after that one time, I kind of took off from there and I just kept door knocking. So it was at that time, it was just, I wanted to start farming a specific area. Of course, I've done open houses. I've done before and after, and then I've also done welcoming new neighbors. So whenever I have a closing, I go on Canva, I create a postcard, and I'll go door knock everybody on the street and in the surrounding streets to say, welcome your new neighbors with the address on the flyer and the sale price. I currently am mostly focused on door knocking where my clients want to live. So I used to door knock not just because, but kind of just because. Now it's more with purpose, and it's in the areas where we've put offers on houses, we didn't get accepted. So I'm door knocking everybody nearby saying, we put an offer on this house, we didn't get accepted. Do you know anybody else?
So that's one that I didn't even mention. It's a buyer need, you door knock around, right?
Yes, and I've been doing that for all of my buyers.
And you know what? I think that there's, you know, a way that you can, on video, you can say, hey, you know what, if you've been looking for a house and you've been unsuccessful, you know, one of our core values is we'll actually go out and knock to help you find a house, because that's doing a value for your client who's a buyer, as well as, you know, broadcasting out that, you know, you might find a seller that doesn't meet your buyer's need, right?
Yeah, and then so some people that we've knocked on, they would say, oh, this is what you do for your buyer. And then they'll say, well, I would sell, but there's nowhere to go. And I would literally just say to them, the same way I'm here for my buyers, if you needed somewhere to go, we can find you somewhere as well.
Very, that's another tip that I kind of forgot about, neglected. I want to talk about, you had brought up about how we did, at least the first time we went out, and I'm going to share this with the group, then I'm going to turn it back to you, but you've reminded me of a concept, which is, you know, my door knock is like, hey, I just wanted to introduce myself, and I'm always wearing something with the Remax, like a hat and a pin, so it's pretty obvious, you know, that I'm in real estate. And I'm saying, hey, I just want to stop by and introduce myself. And that kind of trips people up a little bit. They're like, why are you introducing yourself? And then I go into the script that Shontay had. I just want to see if you knew anyone that I could help looking to move in or out of the neighborhood. And it's hard for somebody to be nasty if you're offering to help, right? Right, Tay?
Yes.
I mean, even if they're like a little bit, you know, taken back by the door knocking, and sometimes we'll build a little bit of a rapport. And people are like, I lived here for 27 years. And I'll be like, how many people have door knocked? You're the first real estate professional that door knocked. It's very, very rare space. At least that's what I've experienced. And if anybody's been there for 25 or more years, I'll often ask them how many other real estate agents have door knocked in that 27, 40 years. And it's a very, very, very low number. So anyway, thanks for sharing the buyer need and how you overcome there's no place to go. You pick your areas primarily by open houses or where you have a buyer that wants to go. Are you door knocking FSBO expireds regularly, or is that a random activity?
So I'll be honest, I do not, first of all, I don't door knock expireds, and I have a little bit of hesitation with FSBOs because I know there's a million other agents reaching out to them. So that's never been my thing. There is one that you know of that me and Jean Marie did door knock, and that was in November. And still to this day, he has not listed his house. And we just followed up with him 2 days ago, and he's still very stubborn. So I don't typically go after for sell by owner or expired.
Gotcha. You know, and I know, and I'm thinking from some of the times that we've been door knocking, we'll talk to anybody that's on the street. I remember we talked to a landscaper who was looking to buy a house. You know, we'll talk to the dog walkers because we're just out there with a smile saying, hey, who can we help?
Yeah.
Can I say something? Sorry.
Absolutely.
So sometimes when I door knock the FSBOs or expires and they say they already have an offer or something like this already, it's off. I sometimes say, oh, what a bummer, such a great property I lost. Do you know anybody else who's looking to, anyone else who has a similar property? Do you know, I had one call me back 3 days later. He says, I didn't think, but then I remembered. Ask the question.
Great. Yep. So thanks for sharing.
Also about talking to other people. All the mail carriers for what I was with you, they showed us my Heather the Hurricane pen. Remember that? He was so proud of it. And I gave him cards. I said, I know they're out there grinding. I gave a Roto-Ruto guy yesterday when I was door knocking a bunch of cards. And I said, I'm going to think I got his. So I run 2 networking groups. I know networking. I was with an inspector the other day and I was asking for referrals. He goes, you're the first agent that ever said that to me. So it's like you said, talk to everyone when you're in a neighborhood.
Yep, just try to be a resource and be a value. So I have 2 more questions for Shontay, then we'll have some questions if we have any more time. So Shontay, what's most important? Is it mindset, attitude, that smile in your experience?
So for me personally, it's mindset, because sometimes, well, I love door knocking, but sometimes you don't want to. But once I go out, like actually get out there and start going, honestly, I just love doing it. So my mindset is always, and there's a scripture, honestly, this might sound a little crazy to some people, but there's a scripture and it says, if you ask, you'll receive, if you seek, you'll find, and if you knock, the door will be open to you. So sometimes I repeat that last part where it says, keep knocking and the door will be open to you. And it literally just keeps me going. So I think mindset is the biggest thing. Of course, I think Reyna said persistence, but mindset before anything.
Fantastic.
I know some people feel like, I used to feel this way, but I used to feel like I'm bothering people. But if you go out there with that mindset, then every door that opens, it's like you're bothering them. So I don't think that way anymore.
So for some of us, the hardest door to get past is opening the car door to go out and knock. So once you get into it, it actually takes a life of its own, and it's fun meeting and talking to people, and it's purely a numbers game. Shontay, do you have anything? Go ahead.
Oh, there was one other thing. So every single time that I door knock, I take down the address and the name of the person that I spoke to. I go back to the office the very next day and I do a handwritten note to every single person that was kind. Even the people who spoke with me, they may not have been super kind, but every person that I've had a conversation with, I do a handwritten note thanking them for speaking to me. And then I say, remember, if you ever need anything or somebody I'm only a phone call away. And I'll put another business card and it goes out within the same week.
Well, thank you for sharing. Anybody? Heather, did you have something else to say?
I think I said it.
Fantastic.
I piped in. Thank you.
And Shontay covers Middlesex, Somerset, Union County primarily, right?
Yes.
Out of our Westfield office with the Chambers Elite team. And this also does work in Florida. We're not just picking New Jersey folks. Pavla out of our plantation office had some great success. She was actually scheduled to be on here and talk. And we've had experiences where, the first person we walk into is somebody from the HOA saying that there's no soliciting here. And I'm like, we're not soliciting. We just want to see if you knew anybody that we could help looking to move in or out of the neighborhood. And the person that was basically saying no soliciting is telling us all the people in the neighborhood that might be moving in the near future. And, that it's about having that attitude of contribution and just saying, hey, if I can help people, that's what we're all about. Any other questions from our audience here?
Yeah, I have a question for you. I might have missed this. I'm sorry. This is Ron Piccolo. What time is the best time do you guys go out door knocking? Some say 8 o'clock in the morning, some say in the afternoon.
So I think when we door knock, I have to look at our schedule. I think most of the time I'll start at 9 on a Saturday, maybe 8:30, and probably 10 on a Sunday. But I mean, there's probably times where you'll have more people at home on like the Saturdays and more people out and about. But sometimes you'll have a Saturday and it'll be everybody's seems to be not home, no cars in the driveway. And it's just about the consistency more so, Ron, than identifying.
I've tried different times. I think I've tried lunchtime. A lot of people work from home. I've tried when they're just getting home from work and didn't start dinner yet. I mean, really try things, just like we do our open houses, sometimes 10 to 12 or 1 to 4. I think trying different times is pretty important too.
And remember, the person's like, annoyed because we knocked on his door Sunday morning, like the second door, and yet that winds up being a listing. So, don't let your mind, don't let your mind get in the way of
Yeah.
what can be done.
I
Yeah,
personally
it's
don't
right.
like
That it's
that.
everything gets in your mind. This is Tony Burrow from Fort Lauderdale. And one time I went to shadow one guy that did 300 doors every day in California. And he started at 9 o'clock and he did not finish until those 300 doors were knocked. He did between $5 to $7 million a year, what you call their in income, I think was. And because of that, it's consistency that you got to do. And people love to see you working, that they love. I did for a while myself. And it works, and certainly there is some people there that they're going to give you a slack, but you just got to say to yourself, next. Don't get hung up on some jerk that tells you something. And certainly on the weekend there, if you go out on the weekend, 9 o'clock or after 9 o'clock is all right. And the last point I want to tell you is that we got a great opportunity now when they changed the hour, the 1 hour ahead that gets dark, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. We had a lady here years ago that worked in our office. Her name was Cheryl. And she worked every day at 4 o'clock. She was behind people's door in the afternoon until 8 o'clock when it started to get dark. And that's how she did a bunch of a business that she did. And the last thing I want to say is we are in a contact business. We are in a people business. So just talk to people. And if that doesn't work, talk to more people, especially now the market is tightening up again. I was in conference with people around the country there, and everywhere they were laughing that even in Utah, the market there's no inventory. So we need to talk to people and churn and churn and churn. And things will happen. Good things happen to people who look for.
Yes, thank you, Tony, for sharing that. And look, this is not, you're not going to make your whole business on door knocking, or at least most of us won't. But I think with technology and multi-line dialers and everything going on, it's something that's overlooked. And if you saw like Lori Caruso when she talked about building her farm and growing that, it was a combination of the direct mail, the outreach to the people in her farm area that really helped connect the dots and make it a really successful venture or investment that she did. So and it also can be fun. It's not, I know when I go door knocking with everybody I've been out with, not only do we, learn, but it's fun talking to people. It's fun if you have that attitude. I just want to see if I could help. So this was.
And by the way, thanks for reminding us about our Florida, because that's another thing. When we talk to people, we could say, well, we're from Remax. Where do I go? You may hear people saying they want to go out of state. Well, we can help. We have partners there, right within our company. So that's something to remember too.
So door knocking can be fun. It can be successful. We've had, people invite us into their house. I mean, I'd be very, use judgment. Sometimes people go as a two in a group. Sometimes they go individually. Safety obviously is something that needs to be considered. But I've, door knocked, I don't know how many houses. I've never really felt like I was in a compromised situation, but it is something that you need to be conscious of when you do that. And if there's no other questions, I just want to thank our great panelists for sharing some time and their successes. It inspired me to want to do it more, and I've also learned, I took 3 notes that door knocking around buyers, Knockwise, and the estate sales. So we're never too expert to learn. So
awesome.
Any last questions? We're going to wrap it up. Thanks for sharing, everybody. You guys are awesome. Ladies, guys, great job.